Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Clarissa Eats It All, where I, Clarissa, eat some traditional English afternoon tea. If you're a visitor stepping foot into England for the first time, you will probably be after some of the country's most popular signature dishes, such as fish and chips or a full English breakfast. However, you have to make sure you don't forget about trying afternoon tea, which, despite the name, isn't just about the tea. Accompanying your bottomless tea is typically a three-tier tray full of delicious treats. No matter where you go, the standard is typically going to be a selection of savory finger sandwiches and scones with clotted cream and jam. The main source of variation will be in the cakes and pastries served, which will be highly dependent on the restaurant you're going to. Today we are at the Swan House Tea Room near the Forest of Dean area of Gloucestershire. Although visitors to the UK are usually tempted by the big city breaks, there is so much charm in visiting independent places like this in the countryside to have afternoon tea. Swan House Tea Room does offer bed and breakfast, but we were here for their Mother's Day afternoon tea. When eating afternoon tea, you usually start from the bottom up. Here we are starting with our savory selection of finger sandwiches. First up is a seeded crusty bread with some ham, spinach leaves, and a sweet chili sauce. This wasn't a typical type of sandwich that you would normally see in afternoon tea, but you could definitely taste the quality of the ham, and the sweet chili gave it a good spark of flavor that made for an interesting start to the meal. The next two sandwiches were more traditional: egg mayo with some really fluffy and soft white bread. The crusts are cut off as you would expect in afternoon tea. It is a simple sandwich, but I love egg mayo. It's always a favorite of mine. The cucumber sandwich is also another type of sandwich that you would expect in afternoon tea. Paired with the fluffy bread again, it's very fresh and light, not too heavy at all. Swan House Tea Room gave theirs a twist by putting what I think is a bit of mint sauce with the cucumber to make it even more refreshing. The final sandwich was not a sandwich as such, but a wrap with chicken, mayonnaise, and a bit of bell pepper for sweet crunch and texture contrast. Once again, simple but effective. Afternoon tea sandwiches are not meant to be overly complex or too filling, as you have two more tiers of food to get through. The next tier, in my opinion, is the absolute best part of afternoon tea: the scones. Most places you will be limited to three options: plain, fruit, or cheese for those who like savory, but Swan House Tea Room does an amazing selection that you can choose from. We went for raspberry and white chocolate and rhubarb and ginger. The flavors of both definitely came through in the scones. Afternoon tea scones are usually paired with jam and clotted cream. There is a bit of debate in the country on whether you should be jam on first or cream on first. I've personally tried both ways and have concluded that jam on first is the better way to go because it's easier to spread the cream evenly on the jam due to the heavier viscosity, but it's harder to get an even spread of jam on cream without messing up the cream. This is known as the Cornish method, whereas putting cream on first is known as the Devonshire method. Most places wouldn't mind you asking for any extra of either if you're like me and you like to pile on the clotted cream. Scones in general tend to be a bit on the drier side when it comes to pastries, so the extra cream does come in handy. We were also given some butter for our scones. It was my first time putting butter on a non-savory scone, but I do see the value as salted butter added just an extra depth of flavor to cut through all of that sweetness. You can tell that you have a nice scone on your hand if you manage to get a good scone rip. Finally, we get to the last tier, which once again would vary a lot depending on the restaurant and their specialties. Even though you might not be able to try these specific desserts, I'll still be showing you to give you a general idea of what to expect. As you'll see, all of these are small bites, with the largest serving being the iced vanilla cupcake. We also had a lemon and raspberry posset. If you've never had a posset before, it's a very smooth and creamy dessert that was interestingly used originally as a remedy for colds. It's similar to a panna cotta in that you cook cream with sugar, but whereas panna cottas rely on gelatin to help it set, possets use acidity, in this case, lemon. The mini shortbread biscuit that came on top was a very nice texture contrast. Going with the lemon and raspberry theme was another cake that had the same flavor profile. The cake was very moist and was wrapped beautifully. The first of their two chocolate desserts was a dark chocolate shell with coconut filling on the inside. The other chocolate dessert was quite interesting. It was a very rich dark chocolate, but the inside had a texture and flavor similar to the dark cookie part of the Oreo, but softer. And if you still aren't full at the end of that, most of these small and independent restaurants that serve afternoon tea also have a cake counter for you to make any purchases. At Swan House Tea Room, you can even take away some of their scones, either warmed or frozen, for you to enjoy at home. If you're ever in the British countryside when the weather is bright and sunny, I highly recommend you make some time to have afternoon tea. Enjoying a selection of different treats in an idyllic setting is something for the bucket list.